So please welcome to the stage, give a warm welcome to our first panelist in this discussion, who is Tasos Stavrou, Vice President, Global Business Development of leading real estate companies of the world. Tasos, come on down. Tasos, as I said, is Vice President of Global Business Development. Sit wherever you like, that's fine. At leading real estate companies of the world. Tasos oversees global growth and leads the company's Destinations by LeadingRE, New Developments Marketing Program, and LeadingRE Commercial. He has over 20 years of experience in the real estate and new development sector. Tasos has held senior leadership roles both in home country Cyprus and internationally as well. Next, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Managing Director of Oliver Road Luxury Real Estate, Mr. Cameron Winter. Cam has a wealth of experience and entrepreneurial spirit, and as Oliver Road's founder, he's established a reputation as one of New Zealand's leading real estate agents. Over the past 15 years, he's sold more than 500 homes and has been instrumental in transforming the luxury real estate industry, setting new standards in client service, and developing innovative marketing strategies. Central to Cam's philosophy is a firm belief in the value of specialization. His strength lies in selling unique, high-value homes that demand a more discerning approach and product knowledge than the average property. Next, we have from Craven Group, Mr. John Roberts. John is a senior partner at Craven Group and an authority on placemaking and property marketing in emerging markets. Now, if you don't know Craven Group, they're one of the most respected international property marketing consultancies and a winner of several UK, Arabian, and international property awards. John has managed flagship projects in London, Europe, and the Middle East, and formulated brand and marketing strategies targeting Western European investors who are retiring here to Thailand and Southeast Asia. So we'll be talking about that shortly. And last but by no means least, please give a warm welcome to the Executive Chairman and CEO of Italpinas Development Corporation, Romolo Nati. Romolo, or RVN, as I shall refer to him, is a multi-awarded green architect, designer and entrepreneur with interests in sustainable development, both in the energy and real estate sector. Romolo employs biomimicry to create sustainable green buildings that blend modern design with the use of environmentally friendly technology. He's also the vice chair of the Philippine Constellation Energy, a renewable energy company focusing on acquiring, financing, and developing small to medium scale renewable energy products. The company, Italpinas, was founded in 2009, and today the company is committed to environmental sustainability through elegant architectural solutions and trademark Italian aesthetics. So, all that to come. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Tasos, we're going to do a bit of an introduction. We've sort of, talked a little bit about everyone, but let's do a proper introduction. So, Tasos, leading real estate of the world, LRE, we'll call it. This is quite an old established organization, over 60 years old. Tell us how it works. Just give us an introduction to what you're about.
Thank you, Etholle. First of all, thanks again for the opportunity to be amongst this great audience and all these leaders to share and discuss about the risks, the opportunities, but also how we can mitigate and further improve our industry with regards to the theme of the panel today. Leading real estate companies of the world, known as LeadingRE, is the global authority of interrelated real estate services with expertise across all major sectors of the industry: commercial, residential, luxury, and of course new developments through our new developments marketing program, Destinations by LeadingRE. As you have very correctly mentioned, we're not a new kid on the block. We have been founded 61 years ago in the US, Chicago. with offices, headquarters in Chicago, offices in New York, Singapore, London, Manila, Canada, and Cyprus. And essentially, we have more than 550 top-tier member companies across 72 countries. That enumerates a remarkable number of 135,000 sales associates across the world. We're very much into relation, business, and introductions, and we facilitate about 20 to 30,000 client introductions every year.
Gosh, busy, very busy. Cam, Oliver Road, where you're based, is, am I right, Queenstown Lakes? This is a district of New Zealand, yeah?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
For those who don't know Queenstown Lakes, put us in the picture. There's something very special about it, isn't there?
I think there's a lot of very special things about it, but it's essentially a basin about the same size as Manhattan in New York, but only a few thousand properties and about 28,000 people. It's surrounded by absolutely magnificent mountain ranges, and it has some very distinct characteristics, not least in part 4 very distinct seasons. Beautiful weather. It gets hot enough, but not too hot. It gets cold enough, but not too cold. And it's very dry.
Okay, so we'll talk more about who wants to come to Queenstown Lakes and why a little bit later on. John, Craven Group, the most respected international property marketing consultancies, or at least one of them in the world. I mentioned earlier you're an expert on placemaking and property marketing in emerging markets. We'll talk more about, what brings people to Queenstown Lakes in a bit. But what more can property developers in this region do to tap into these potential investors? How do we reach out to them? How do we give them a call to action to come?
Yeah. I think global marketing is still fairly new to much of Asia, and I think the best advice I can give is to make sure that developers, unless they're of a large size and they have an internal resource to research actually global marketing, is to engage a consultant, and I think that's either an international agent of size or it's an overseas marketing consultant. They will be able to research specific markets for you, both by country and by region. They'll be able to develop a strategy which is relevant to your product and offering and the demographics, and of course they'll be able to project manage the rollout. So I think it's all about advice, and there's lots of I think in the past there have been lots of instances where lots of money has been spent, lots of marketing campaign, lots of clicks, but no sales. So that specialist advice, I think, is very important.
All right, thank you, John. We'll talk more about specifics in a moment. Let's start to talk about sustainability then, and this idea of the sort of 4 elements and the impact that it has on all of these things. Why, that's what's bringing people to Queenstown Lakes, because Cam's got this amazing climate and people want to be there, but we don't want to ruin it. We don't want to have too many people. So trying to square this circle is difficult. So let's talk about sustainability then. You're very keen on sustainability. It's one of the driving forces of what you do. How important is it to your clients, though, to the people that you're working for and with?
First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for being here.
to be here. First of all, it's very much linked to the market we are talking about. We are in the Philippines, and our market is, let's say, a low middle market, and sustainable products can be successful and accepted if they make sense for the end users. In our case, it's very important that we maintain the price accessible, because again, we are talking with not the luxury market, and if it makes sense to the end users, means that apart from saving the world, the earth, they have a big saving on their finances, then it's a win choice for both, for the win-win, I mean, for the developer and for the end user. So that's what we have been focusing from the inception of the company, trying to deliver sustainable building that obviously are rated green by third-party organization, like in our case is the EDGE, which is the green rating system developed by the World Bank through IFC. If the final product has the same or similar price of another product which is not green, I can say that the market it goes for it.
So, as we mentioned, this is one of the driving things for you. We've got the developers. The developers can pay for sustainability. The architects can specify sustainable materials and practices. How can realtors, how can the real estate professionals encourage clients to prioritize energy efficient homes?
Okay, to me again, it's about the end user's profitability. It's the end user gain. Everyone wants to say the earth, but at the cost of somebody else. So, for example, the way when we do our seminar product knowledge about the product to the brokers, we always emphasize the fact that with our product, our real estate product, end users can have saving on their finances. This is extremely important because they can save water, they can save energy. In the Philippines, mainly energy is for aircon, because it's a very hot place. So when the end users understand that they can invest in a real estate product that is healthier, give their the opportunity to live in a better environment, at the same time they have a saving on their finances, that's a win.
Okay. Thank you so much, Romolo. Tasos, you as a company, you do research into these issues, don't you? So tell us about the luxury report. This is the title of a report that LRE actually produce. What does that tell us? I understand you've done some research into people at the high end of the market and whether they are interested in sustainability.
Yeah, thank you. To put this into context, Etholle, actually Luxury Portfolio International is our luxury leg of our operations, and it's a dedicated luxury program that promotes more than 50,000 top-tier luxury properties and listings around the world. It produces various researchers, and the most recent one was the Luxury Unfiltered report that was basically released earlier this year in February. And one of the interesting findings is that part of this report has identified sustainability. It has identified sustainability as a value of luxury. So in an essence, the definition of luxury has expanded to now include responsibility. So the affluent investors are actively seeking all those sustainability elements and components are parts of the investments they're doing as part of their next luxury home, which they want to acquire. So it is of paramount importance, not only for the real estate developers, which we have seen great steps ahead in terms of sustainable developments, but also real estate companies should take into account that part of their marketing and sales strategy should include undeniably all sustainability aspects. So
almost it's become part of that storytelling. When you're sitting around the dinner table with your friends, you can tell stories about your new home and how sustainable it is. Absolutely, and it goes beyond that. I mean, luxury, the affluent buyer today, it doesn't expect sustainability to be an afterthought. For them,
is something that should be part of what they buy and corresponds to their own values, not just the needs of the next real estate that they would buy.
Okay, Tasos, thank you very much. We talked about some of the wonderful aspects of where you operate your part of New Zealand. People are coming because it offers this amazing lifestyle and climate and good environment. So who is attracted? Who can come?
Good question. Up until about 2018, almost anybody could buy a property in New Zealand, and over the last few years that has changed, and now only people from New Zealand, Australia and Singapore can. So across those markets, generally the people buying in Queenstown are very capable. They're often sort of global citizens. They spend some of their time in Queenstown in New Zealand, and a lot of their time elsewhere. But interestingly, I'm not sure how many of them yet prioritise sustainability. I think there's a lot of sort of virtue signalling and a bit of dissonance in the luxury industry. Everybody wants to talk about sustainability, but then when it comes to renovating the kitchen, happy to take a piece of marble out of the ground, on the other side of the world.
It's interesting. So really, your first-hand experience is that this is gradually filtering through. But as you said, Romolo, it especially when it comes to the pocket and the pride, how much of that is taking effect yet. Okay, we'll talk more about this as the conversation goes by. Thank you for that, Cam. John, where do you see the biggest opportunities? We've talked then about some of the benefits, what's on offer, how we market to them. In your expert view, who should we be marketing to? Who can we encourage to come? Cam has limitations because his market is somewhat limited by government.
I think because of the global financial market, I think it's hit lots of Europeans really heavily, and there opens up actually a large opportunity. There are thousands of semi-retired Western Europeans, UK, Germany, Scandinavia in particular, to a lesser extent France and Austria, who have built up a retirement pot for their retirement. They're aged anything from 45 to 70. They've managed to get to where they thought they would be financially. They're self-secure. They're still working. They have their own businesses. But they've got money in the bank. But because of the global conditions, they find that their retirement pot still isn't enough right now for the general cost of living in their own country, and that's really disappointing. But what that does on the flip side is open up the opportunity to explore Southeast Asia. They would have holidayed here before for annual holidays, 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and they're now starting to have a look at opening up to Southeast Asia, not staying for 1, 2, 3 weeks, but staying for 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 months a year maybe. It's that golden period of November through to April to spend the summers here. And there's been a big change, particularly in South Thailand, for instance, where there's a lot more opportunity. So I think it's real estate at the moment is changing actually the product for people who used to stay in 4- and 5-star hotels. They're now looking for long-term places to rent as a second home, or indeed for long lets.
Okay, John, thank you very much indeed. So let's talk about some of the challenges that these elements present us with then, in general. So in response to growing environmental concerns, and particularly the climate challenge, the climate crisis, how have building codes and zoning regulations evolved over time in response to this?
Again, this is very much location related, no? The answer, obviously. In a developing country where we operate, I can say that the private sector is ahead of government rules and regulation. But I have to say that, for example, in the case of Philippines, the government is also very receptive and understand that they also need to do their own part. And we can see, we are witnessing that the regulation are improving in order to, in some way, also force developers to implement, to include energy, let's say, energy features or sustainable feature into the buildings themselves. So in more developed countries, like can be, I don't know, Italy, where I come from, or I'm sure US, etc., government is ahead, so they lead the way. So it's very much again the answer related to the place where a developer works.
Okay, thank you, Avian. So Tasos, when disaster strikes, yeah, if we look at the worst case scenarios that we've seen, you know, whether we've been involved directly or whether we've watched in horror from afar, we've seen wildfires, terrible floods, earthquakes, you know, you name it. Unfortunately, it is happening somewhere. You know, at this moment, probably, unfortunately, something like that is challenging people and their lifestyles and livelihoods. So, real estate companies rely on their communities for their existence. If you didn't have a community CAM, you wouldn't need to sell any houses in that community. How important is it that the real estate companies are hands-on when it comes to, and think about this, we've got realtors in the room, we've got developers in the room. The worst thing happens, what's the next step? What should we as an industry be doing?
Well, I think one thing that we all agree is that real estate is not just about numbers, balance sheets, surveys, natural disaster assessments, and everything that has to do with regulations and numbers. It's all about relationships as well. And I will say that real estate companies, best real estate companies, they don't just rely on their communities. They're deeply rooted in their communities. And I think their engagement with the communities goes far and beyond of just day-to-day operations, negotiation of contracts, property viewings, and contract signings. It's all about helping the community. And we have numerous examples within the network of LeadingRE that real estate companies have really stepped it up, especially in the cases and times of natural disasters. And unfortunately, I think that we're going to see more of this happening. So they have a vital role to play to this extent. And I have some notes with me, actually. I would like to share with you some real examples of how these companies have really helped in many ways during these difficult times. So one of our Los Angeles members reported that when about 7,000 homes, used to be mic'd up. So when about 7,000 homes were burned in the wildfires last year, from a range of area from Malibu to Palisades, the agents of this company, they all got in touch with their sphere of influence and found ways to instantly help those people in need. And we had another one great example of another of our big members in Florida, which essentially they went through 3 successive hurricanes in a period of about less of 60 days. Can you imagine? So one of the things that they have done, they decided that they should focus on having calm leadership. I mean, giving this essence of being calm and handling the situation was of paramount importance for the people. And for them, actually, they have included into this strategy manuals in their own offices of how to react in a case of a hurricane. They had delivering sandbags and water bags before the hurricanes. They had water, so in case of need. And basically, as in the same way, a flight attendant will ask you on a plane to put your own oxygen mask before to help others. They were in a position to support their communities. And most importantly, they gave the chance to their leadership, to the broker owners, to go far beyond that. And we have seen tangible examples of companies helping because homes were lost. Agents lost their homes. Companies lost their offices. And the broker owners actually helped their agents by giving them free interest loans until they will be able to recover and pay them back. So I think this is an active and tangible example of how strong real estate companies can play an important role during times of crisis.
Well, it's absolutely food for thought, Tasos. Thank you. Cam, that must make perfect sense. I know that you're very fortunate that so far, your area isn't subject to these challenges because of the way it's situated. But it makes sense. You're rooted in the community.
Absolutely. I think companies across a lot of industries should always be taking that approach. But in particular, real estate agents form quite unique relationships with a large number of people. I've sat in the living rooms and dining rooms of thousands of people over the past 15 years, and you form quite special relationships for certain periods of time. And so understanding and having that network of people who you can sort of call on and lead in the case of a crisis is very sort of fortunate. We, I guess where we are in Queenstown, we don't have sea level rise issues. We don't generally have extreme weather events. At any given time, there could be an enormous earthquake because we are, of course, on the ring of fire. But rightly or wrongly, it's almost seen more as a bolt hole, I suppose, for the wealthy and capable people around the world. The Silicon Valley entrepreneurs and those sorts of people. New Zealand has become sort of synonymous with where those people might escape to in times of crisis.
Okay, Cam, thank you very much. John, is there a way to we've talked about, who we should be marketing to. In your opinion, is there a way to market properties which acknowledges if you're in some of these zones where there can be climatic challenges or environmental challenges? Is there a way to market these properties that acknowledges that, or do you just ignore it and hope it goes away?
I think it's a bit of both. I think developers obviously need to do their due diligence and has their risk assessments. And I think a lot of it's about reassurance for customers. But it's interesting, I think, because even, I'm involved in its European buyers and investors. And of course, they've had their fair share of floods and wildfires in recent times. But if you speak to customers and ask them actually what their concerns are when they're buying real estate overseas, and specifically in Southeast Asia, the environmental factors are quite a long way down their list of concerns. Far higher up the list is value for money, which isn't about price. It's just because they will pay a premium if we can deliver exactly what they're looking for, but they do want to try and get value for money for whatever they're buying, because it's always investment, even if it's a owner-occupier or the homes for themselves, or indeed if they're renting. And then second on the list is health and well-being. Obviously, health actually runs into medical insurance, and the what if anything happens health-wise, particularly if you're older and you're moving into retirement. And then actually well-being is all about happiness. It's about well-being, it's about food, it's about leisure, it's about actually being able to do all the things that you wanted to do. So those are concerns, and it is interesting. All the research puts the environment as number 5, number 6, as serious an issue as it can be.
Thanks, John. One more quick question each. So from a design point of view, we've talked about the challenges that climate throws at us. Let's go back to these elements. For example, water, RVN. Water can be a challenge in itself. The lack of water can be a challenge in some environments. So how are developers best integrating conservation technologies and practices into developments? How can they best do that, do you think?
Of course, I can talk about what we do, what we in our project, in our development, and we are very much focused, of course, in water and in power. In terms of water, it's since every project the first project we have done, we design buildings that recycling water, rainwater harvesting. We have bathroom fixture that save water. So whatever we can implement in order to reduce the water consumption, it's done. But of course, we are always studying also new ways to improve. Also, this one going to the first question you asked earlier, why end users should be interested on that, because they save money, so they have a lower water bill, and at the same time they save the environment. I can see that, many times now I have asked people ask me why other developers are not doing that, but I can see that many developers are starting to doing that, because it's always about raising the bar. So if we like to think about ourselves, our company, as a first mover in many ways, in the location where we go, in the design we have, and in this energy and water features that we implement in our buildings. We can see that our competitors are also doing that, obviously, because at the end it's the market that decides. We can all have good ideas and a goal, but if the market is not following, is not appreciating your product or your service, there is no way to succeed. So talking about water, that's the feature that we use. On top of that, also we are trying, sorry, just to finish, it's also very important, the building management, no? Because we always think, I can give you a very fast car, but you need to know how to drive it, correct? Because if you don't know how to drive it, it's useless that you get a car or a fast car. So what we're trying to do also to educate or to give information, to train our end users, our unit owners, how to properly use their unit, So, for example, in terms of power, all our units have cross ventilation. We increase natural ventilation. We are telling the unit owners, if you want to save on your power and you help the environment, you stop your aircon and try to enjoy the fresh air. You have just to do this, and this, and they follow, and they thank us at the end of the day. So I think that's a way to move forward.
Thank you very much. Just leading on from that then, Tasos, from your point of view, where you look, you have this huge view of what's happening globally. Is there more of what RVN's mentioned that you would like to see other developers doing to try and sort of acknowledge and rise to some of these challenges?
That's a sizzling question for an early morning session, given that we have developers in the room. Well, frankly, I think the industry has taken tremendous steps ahead in terms of sustainability and how things are happening now. However, I will very much agree with Romero. There is still a huge discrepancy between different jurisdictions and markets, and I think this is where it becomes a little bit complex. There is not uniformity, and it cannot be uniformity because different markets has different aspects, different development criteria, different legislation, and I believe that developers have to go through tremendously complex regulations sometimes to abide to these new rules. However, at the same time, they have to make money, they have to make profit, and they have to deliver desirable product to the market, because as Romero positioned it, and as you position it, I mean, it's all about, at the end of the day, your product to be appealing. So all this together has to be contextualized into, I think, a new perspective as well. And it's about developers moving from compliance to resilience. Because at the end of the day, developers are playing and will continue to play a pivotal role of how the market will change in terms of sustainability in the years to come.
Thank you very much. On the similar note of sustainability, Cam, when you've got an area like yours, how much development is too much? Because it's difficult, isn't it? Where's the tipping point between you need progress, you need construction, but are you spoiling what's already there?
Well, I think any amount of development is always too much and always not enough. Because
I'm glad you put the second bit on there.
we're humans. We're taking over the world, and planet Earth doesn't particularly care whether it's a ball of molten rock or covered in ice. It's us who care that it stays, in some version of what it's like today. And so, I suppose as far as the scale of the development, we're seeing the effects of too much development right now in its current form, because those elements are showing us, they're telling us. We're getting more fires, we're getting more floods, we're getting stronger wind. It will always be too much, and our time here is limited because of that. But everything that the likes of, some of the speakers and I'm sure some of the more development firms and things that are here today, everything that they can do will always make a difference. But ultimately, it'll never be enough.
Okay, all right, good answer. Thank you very much. And in fact, in this afternoon's discussion, we're going to be looking in more detail about some of those steps that these leading development companies are taking to try and ameliorate some of these issues, some of the technologies that are being incorporated, which are numerous and fascinating. So thank you for leading us into that. John, final question to you. We've talked about, let's end on a bright note. We've talked about the possibilities that this particular region has to bring new people in, to encourage inward investment. If there was one thing that you would encourage developers to do tomorrow in terms of reaching these audiences, what would that one thing be?
I think because there is change to how people are going to move across the globe more, and I think there's a change from selling houses to building new places and new destinations for people. I think vacation holidays are getting longer and longer and longer in periods of time. So people will be having a look at larger houses, larger apartments, places where they can work from home, places where they have technology to be able to speak to offices the other side of the world. I think visas now, both retirement visas, nomad visas, are a lot more common. So I think the mood's going to swing from people staying a much longer time. So developers will have to start to think more about the communities, more about destinations, and that means adding in more facilities, health, welfare, more leisure activities. And I think as part of that, in our world of marketing real estate, then I think our role will be to get involved much, much earlier in the process. And I think if there is one thing, it's to engage in consultants right at the beginning of the development. And I think marketing is more about marketing and redeveloping new products, almost a bit like a concept architect may do right at the beginning of a project. And I think that's all about actually creating the right places and the right harmony to live.
Okay, super. All right, well, thank you very much, John. I know that John and Tasos are both here with display stands. So if anybody wants to speak with John or speak with Tasos, then you're literally out by the door there. Do go and see them. But in the meantime, we've probably got time for one or maybe two questions. If anyone has any immediate questions, we can't see very well, can we? There's so much light on us that I can't see if anyone's raising their hands. Anybody raising their hands for a question? Not at this stage? No? Okay. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful to see you. Thank you for joining us this morning. More discussion to come. Tasos Stavrou, Romolo Nati, Cameron Winter and John Roberts. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you, panel. Thank you.